Hey guys, Master Jace here. Today we're going to be talking about the pineal gland, Christ, 33, um, and a lot more other some deep spiritual stuff, some sacred stuff. Um, First, we're going to be talking about the hows and the whys of the science behind things. So everybody universally tells you to meditate, to bring your mind, when you're trying to open your third eye or go through this Kundalini awakening to open your pineal gland, right? They tell you to meditate, bring your mind to a clear space so the energy can flow without your thoughts kind of blocking it. Another thing that's real common within these studies is people tell you to eat an alkaline diet. Make sure your body's alkaline, and not indulge in things like alcohol because they're really acidic. They're really acidic for the body, and if you eat other things that are really acidic, it'll cause your body to kind of ferment inside the digestive tract. They also talk about decalcifying your pineal gland. There's a good book called The Fluoride Deception, and you can read that, and it'll tell you why somebody want to calcify another human's pineal gland. All this is correct, but you have to ask yourself why, to understand things truly. Why do I do this? So when you start to come into esoterics, you start to learn that these sacred texts should be read differently. They should be taken in a literal sense, but translated. Sometimes they are very literal, but other times they're a code. And this is obviously something that's hidden from mankind. And people go, the powers that be, the Illuminati, whatever you want to call them, go to great lengths to hide this from us, mankind. So according to esoterics, basically you learn about this, something that makes a journey in your body, something that happens every month, specifically, supposedly, when the moon becomes into your sun sign in Vedic astrology. And basically, it's whether or not you nurture this journey of this substance based on whether or not you'll get full use of your pineal gland or not. And in turn, you'll get full use and entire use of your whole mind. So we're going to start with something called the colostrum. There's a thing in your brain called the colostrum, and today, still in modern science, not everybody's sure what it does. But in esoterics, it's said that from the colostrum, that every month there's a secretion, a sacred secretion, if you will, a sacred fluid that's secreted from the colostrum of the brain. And when it leaves the colostrum, it travels down your central nervous system. It travels down all 33 of your vertebrae. Now, there's that number, 33, right? The ancient Greeks called it Chrism or ectos. It's an oily substance. There's that word chrism. It's Christ with an M at the end instead of a T. And basically, it's the Christ within, the chrism, that which must be saved, So when the colostrum secretes this chrism, it goes down your central nervous system, down all 33 vertebrae, basically your nervous system, as I said, and it meets the sacred plexus, the 5 fused vertebrae in the base of your spine, basically. That's where it begins its return journey up. It ties in with how Jesus was in the tomb for 3 days and was resurrected, just as the sun on December 22nd and the winter solstice is in the tomb for 3 days. It sits in one spot in the sky, doesn't become higher again for 3 days. The chrism has to travel back up your 33 vertebrae. Jesus died at age 33. And a lot of us understand the idea behind the 33-degree Masons. Try not to associate it with something evil or anything like that, but it's just like electricity or fire. You have an electrician, you put electricity in the hands of them, and they're skilled. They'll light up your house and do a lot of magical, powerful things. But if you do it with somebody unskilled, they could burn your house completely down. So this chrism travels down your 33 vertebrae, stays in the base of your spine for 3 days, and travels back up. And as it does, it crosses a nerve in your spine, and as it goes into what's called the hypothalamus, and it sits there for about 2.5, 3 days, just as Jesus laid in the tomb for 3 days, just as the sun sets in the sky for 3 days. This secretion, this chrism, comes from the claustrum, and it's almost a simile for how Santa Claus, comes from the North Pole and comes down and gives gift down your chimney and gives gifts to all these children and things like that. All these stories have a very similar, very, very similar origin, if you will. No, these allegories, they're misinterpreted. It's a story of the journey which happens inside you and which happens in the stars above, But as this chrism crosses this nerves and goes into this hypothalamus, and the ancient Egyptians used to call it the light of the world, I believe. They understood its power and its importance. Once it leaves that, it travels up to the pituitary and the pineal gland. And once it's saved and through correct living and healthy living, having an alkaline diet, because it's really volatile. If your body's acidic, it'll sever it, it'll destroy it, and it won't return. But as it returns to the pituitary and the pineal gland, the pituitary secretes serotonin, the pineal secretes DMT, and you kind of flick the switch on, and you come out of this spiritual bondage, and you come into this land that's flowing with energy, And it happens when the moon is in your sun sign, once a month. And it's good to abstain from sex during this time and make sure you're very alkaline, and exercise, meditation. Exercise helps you to be alkaline. That's the science of the Kundalini, the sacred science of the pineal gland. And it's been hidden from the masses, hidden from humankind for thousands of years now, since the times of Egypt, And the pyramids were actually in part dedicated to showing you how to preserve this sacred fluid, this sacred chrism, this energy, this chrism, this gift that we're given. And once you realize this, we can all become enlightened, and realize the Christ within ourselves, this Christ mind. We can give birth to this Christ within ourselves. And that's why a lot of people say to become vegan, because it helps you stay alkaline, things like that. So even if people don't realize what they've done, they've preserved this fluid within themselves, and it went down all 33 vertebrae, and it's activated the base and went back up, which secretes serotonin, DMT, and you live a blissful, happy life, and you start opening an insight that other people don't have. A lot of major religions know this. They keep it as forbidden knowledge, or you know, they hide it from us. As I mean, a lot of the religions are guilty of this. They would never tell you this, but in the higher up, you know, the apex of their societies and cultures and things like that, they know this. They know it to be true. That's why the idea of like the 33 degree Mason, things like that, has multiplex of meanings. But this is one that stays very true. I mean, because if you think about it, when you're in control and you have nothing to fear, then all you fear is losing that control. So they're afraid of an empowered populace. They're afraid of us awakening and realizing that this trap isn't working anymore, and we can take the people that have abused their position of power for the wrong things, for money, things like that, vehicles, houses, all these things that they get in their position of power. They understand that we would no longer need to give money to build these $1 million churches and things like that, when inside these sacred texts there holds truth within ourselves, the Christ within, and this sacred awakening within. That's why I tell people I'm not religious by any means, but I do follow the scriptures and texts like that. I do read a lot into them, and I spend a lot of time studying them and making comparisons and seeing where they connect with these sacred sciences. So I'd say if you're a Christian and you believe that another man is the Christ, then you'll never really understand or be able to wake up the Christ within if you only follow the dogmatic religious principles. But if you look for deeper meaning within these texts, they'll lead you, to a whole new place of spiritual awakening. And they all come from the same religion, the same texts. They all have the same origin. They just interpret it in different ways. And essentially that goes against everything that was taught by God and Jesus and everything, every religion. They teach you that you yourself have this power within, and we're all unique, and we can all access these higher levels of consciousness. And the same goes for Buddha and Krishna and a lot of the other messiahs, if you will. If you really want to know how to use your pineal, wait for the moon to be in your sun sign. Use the Vedic astrology. Try not to use Western. Eat moderately. Sit patiently in meditation. Clear your mind. Enhance your willpower. Enhance your happiness. Don't expect the universe to give it to you unless you're willing to just give back that patience. If you're not willing to give up things like drinking, going to the pub, bars, clubs, things like that, and stop doing drugs. I mean, there's things like smoking pot, things like that'll help you connect with higher planes, I believe. DMT is one of the things that I think a lot of people should experience. But I'm talking about, acidic depressants, things like, even like opioids and alcohol, things like that. If you're not willing to give it up, make this difference, make this change, then the universe isn't going to give this to you. It doesn't just happen. You have to earn it through willpower and healthy living. Through balance does spiritual health return. But if you're willing to show the discipline that it takes to reveal this Christ within this and activate your Kundalini, the Kundalini awakening, opening all your chakras, then it takes you, through these, the 7 seals, if you will. It takes you through this process, and once you get there, you'll reach a new level of energy, a new level of quality of life, a new happiness, and you'll find purpose in your everyday life. I completely believe that if this knowledge was open to humanity and people were open to this knowledge, then we can completely change the world. We could completely change the way things are going, and really together access this unified consciousness, keep a sense of self, but also reach our higher selves, come to a new spiritual apex, this age of enlightenment together. And you have to be willing to make the sacrifice. You have to be willing to set aside your petty wants and needs and think about your higher self, think about others, think about animals, think about plants. I love my animals, and they love me too, but it's that bond, that connection that you get just like with your pet, Come here. Come here. That bond you get is, it's unspoken, but it's still there, and you can't really put a parallel to that, but we could have that with everything. Every bird, every fish, every animal, every person we see. And when we learn to, let go of our fear, our grief, our, guilt, our, unneeded wants and things like that, once we start to attain this higher self, and then we can let go of our, our worldly desires, if you will, then we can start to reach this new level. And instead of being, lazy and stuck in our ways, we should change, And sometimes when you look at this Masonic information, like the 33 degrees and things like that, and you start looking deeper into the Illuminati, the illuminated ones, things like that, you start to see that somewhere along the line that it's been corrupted, that it's been used for man's greed, for positions of power, because, like I said, as you have all that power, the only thing you fear is losing that power. And it's just not right. It's not the way it was intended. All these teachers have been corrupted and perverted, and not the true intentions that they had when they sought to make these things, everything, these principles. Everybody should look up these 14 universal laws, these hermetic principles, and start applying them to their life. And once they do, they'll start to reach, like I said, a new quality of life. I'm going to go ahead and share a couple of references pertaining to this that have been, I guess, leaked out by these people that want to share it with us. You can tell they've been initiated, but do not like the way that the status quo is. So they started to break free from that. This one is Jim Carrey talking about it. Sacred secretion, the cerebrospinal fluid, the Christ within. The anointing is the secretion, substance once named Chrism, the origin of the word Christ being anointing, anointed. Christ within us all is born with the sacral plexus, the sacred place, where the 5 fused vertebrae of the spine meet. The Christ seed is born here and begins its journey up the 33 vertebrae to be crucified, amplified in power. When it meets the pituitary and pineal after spending 3 days in the hypothalamus, the tomb, it's created a circuit causing the secretion of DMT and serotonin, honey, and milk. When the seed and oil are preserved and returned, you, in short, reach the promised land and become a perfect antenna for prayer. You walk through the gates of nirvana. So here's a little scientific aspect of it.
About alchemical sexual alchemy. Do you know that the story of Jesus, how it's been altered in certain ways? I mean, yes, there was a guy, yes, there was teachings, all that stuff. The parallel between that and alchemical sex is that there's 33 vertebrae in your spine. There's 33 years in the life of Jesus.
Christ.
Okay. There is a substance or liquid or a substance that comes from your medulla which is basically completely looks like the Ark of the Covenant, has angels' wings around it, the whole thing. So this substance
Between the cerebrum and of the brain is where the secretion begins. The Ark of Covenant is guarded by cherubim angels, cerebrum, right? The arc of meditation between the left and right hemispheres, between the cerebrum on each side.
Substance comes from your medulla, makes the trip down your spine to your sacrum, which is
Quick, get a dictionary.
Christ coming down into human form.
Yeah.
You love righteousness and hate wickedness. Therefore God, your God, has anointed you with the oil of gladness above your fellows.
And if you don't squander that essence, that sexual essence, it ascends again and goes back up to heaven, which is your thing. It's also the story of Santa Claus. Why he comes down the chimney is because this juice or this whatever substance actually passes what's called the claustrum, which is where they got Santa Claus.
Hey guys,
So there's that, and yeah, I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'm going to be doing a little bit more into, like, you know, the chakras and meditation, a lot of the more ancient occult stuff, if you will, and try to give translations and new scientific meaning to these things. So I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you think. Please like, click, share, everything, comment. Yeah, let's get the channel out there a little bit more, and feel free to share your opinions. Hope you guys enjoy it.